Okay, live from the kitchen today, just having a bit of a look at the Marconi 2955B, and the B was the update version. Quite a nice test set actually. I've got to say there's a few functions on it that if you've been used to watching me on the Motorola 2001D, and I've got a 2009D. By the way, don't get confused, the 2001 and the 9, they're just options. They're all 2001Ds basically. But generally you'll find me sitting here plugging in frequencies and saying, righto, let's have a bit of a listen. So the nice thing about the 2955B is that it's will pretty much find out very, very fast what frequency you're on, and you don't have to do a thing. Excuse me. So today we're testing on a really controversial radio, extremely controversial. We bought one of these in because we just wanted to have a bit of a look at what they claim to be a 25 watt handheld, which as you can imagine, you probably don't want to have this handheld sitting next to your head at a UHF frequency. 25 watts is probably a little bit much, but I was curious to find out this UHF VHF handheld, whether in fact it did output anything like that, and just how well it did it. And I was surprised that it doesn't reach 25 watts, but I'll show you. So let's take this Lexen, never know how to pronounce it, L-E-I-X-E-N, Lexen we'll call it. And what we do is we just hit transmit on the excuse me, Lexen, and there we go. Bingo. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 1 2. Actually, I'm hearing myself coming through a little AOR scanner at the moment, so I'll turn that down a second. Nice to know that works as well. But what we're seeing over here is 1 2 3 4 5 1 2. Now it seems to do a couple of strange things, this one. Could be my lead. I'm just having a bit of a look here. Yeah, there we go. So we're showing 18.3 watts, 18.1 watts coming out of this handheld. If I die of a brain tumour, you'll know what caused it. And we're showing about 1 2 3 4 5 1 2, about 3 point something kilohertz in deviation on FM. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3. And as you can see, the longer I transmit, 17.9, etc. So there you go. Alright, frequency calibration, obviously pretty right. Just the last couple of digits there that are just flicking around a little bit, but quite good. Okay, so do I like this handheld anymore after doing that? Of course I don't. It's not approved in any way. It needs to go through a million tests. Let me just turn that scanner down, that's better. Now we should hear ourselves coming through the monitor. I might just sort of make sure that's happening okay. 1 2 1 2. Turn that volume up a little bit more. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 1 2. Yeah, definitely hearing myself coming through there. And 18.3 watts again. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay. All right, and we are in FM over here just to show you how this thing all works. Now, obviously, this unit can do a lot more than just that. So we can go into RX test. We're already set up on 147 megs. So we can say to ourselves, where's the squelch point? So let's have a bit of a look. We're on 147 here. We'll turn the volume up so we know when we hit the squelch point. And with our variable control here, we can basically bring that level up. And I'll just turn that down a bit. As you can see, that now goes basically 0.8 of a microvolt, 0.7, so about 0.7 a microvolt, bit of hysteresis. So your hysteresis is 0.7 to 0.8, as you can see, and pretty much if I had the radio unsquelched, we would probably hear this down to 0.05 or somewhere around there. I won't bother to do that because we're really not that interested in the Lexen and how well it performs or doesn't perform in some respects. But obviously we can take this up and keep going up, keep generating, and normally, we'd say 50 microvolts would be a nice level to sort of just see where that S meter is reading. and it should be pretty much full scale. Yep. So on the surface, I'll just turn the volume down so it doesn't drive everyone mental. On the surface, as you can see, a very easy unit to quickly check that your transmitter is working without having to dial in the frequency. And RX test, very, very simple to, fortunately I already had the frequency in there, but in the event that I didn't, I would just plug in 147, etc. megahertz. Obviously, sorry, first of all saying frequency, so to say, oh, that's what I want to do, we'll just do this very quickly. 147.000 megahertz, and then bang, we're in. Now what it's done is, because I was on the transmit and I've hit a transmit signal there, it's actually picked up and said, well, common sense is that if you've just done a transmitter test at 147, unless you're using a split, probably the receiver is going to be, 147 that you're going to want to test. So you can set all this up in here. You can also set up duplex testing, etc. So there's a lot of different variations. For CTCSS and tones, etc., once again, all on board there. There's quite a lot that that this can do in probably more of an automatic fashion. And here we're going to look at deviation on a scope bar. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2. Hello. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. Hello. 1 2. All right. So what you're basically seeing there is a harder way, because you'd have to look at the graduates of the plus 30 and minus 30, and then say, right, so were we around about 3 to 5 kilohertz deviation? Yes, we were. But obviously much easier to have a look at this section here. The bar graphs are just faster. You're always going to find that you can just read off those bar graphs so much faster and do a quick test. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 1 2 1 2. Personally, 3.7 kilohertz deviation is a little bit low. I'd probably normally like to see that 4 to 5 kilohertz deviation. So, and I was noticing it when I was listening to the recovered audio that it just sounds a bit low. Well, that's what's causing it, is that the deviation could be just that little bit better. But certainly, the Marconi 2955, for a very quick ability to get in front of a radio and say, right, what's it doing in its basics. I mean, this unit does far more than what I'm showing you. You can test filters, you can just do, look, I could go on forever. Look, it does have its own scope adjustments, etc. too, so you can actually feed in an input to it. You can feed in external AF, external modulated inputs. There's an output there, so I'm assuming that you can just feed what you set up in your AF generator over here. You'll generate the frequency at 1 kilohertz there, and you can feed that straight out. Pretty sure you can do a two-tone as well. Nice little things like RX equals TX frequency. Look, it just goes on. Synad, another thing, distortion. This unit does it all. The big question that I always get from people is, hey, can you resolve a sideband signal? Okay, so there are some tricks. We talked about this on the 2400 the other day. We showed it on the 2001D, how that they inject with the BFO and how easy that is to do. The 2955B, just to be really clear, was definitely made for the AM/FM market. And whilst you can certainly do any sort of HF comms testing that you'd like to, the resolution of listening to that signal, you're going to need an outboard receiver just to do that. And you can actually incorporate that into the lineup of this here. You can't data address it, so you're going to need to have a separate receiver, just if you really want to just have that first-hand listen to the signal. But bar that, as an AM/FM tool and as a HF, VHF, UHF tool, the 2955 is a really nice piece of equipment, and it certainly has the advantage that it's a lot more lightweight than a lot of the ones I've had to drag around various countries, and it also can operate off anywhere between I think 12 volts right through to about, I'm thinking, I don't want to misquote this, I think 12 volts through to about 25 or 28 volts. Just let me check that before someone hooks one up. Hang on. Okay, it wasn't too far out, but good to sort of get it correct. It's actually 11 volts through to 32 volts, so I said 12 to 25, but so you can put a DC supply of 11 to 32 volts into this, and as you can see on the back, it's a little reasonably common DC connector, so not too bad. The other thing that's interesting too is that you can put external timing measurements in there. They allow that 1 meg. I'm sort of curious to see whether they had a 10 meg input, but it doesn't look like it. But still, certainly something that you could just bring that stability down to a better factor. And I'm just having a look in here. What that says, just says that it's a 2955B, made in the United Kingdom. All right. While we're on the back of the unit, there is a IEEE interface on the back here. Probably not something you're going to use a lot, but you know, maybe people in the comments section can advise me of just what they've found it useful for, and certainly always interested to know a bit more. So I just thought for the example of showing you just how fast this unit can pick up, what we'll do is we'll bring this unit over here so it's just, yeah, that should be right, and I'll just get set up here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly change it over to, say, 439 megahertz. Bingo. Now, what we're trying to do here is to say, well, you know, how fast does it pick up on a different frequency? Look at that. It's actually having trouble with that. And what that tells me is that this unit here, oh, that'll be power lead. Sorry, the antenna lead is not connecting correctly. Let's just do that up a little bit just in case that's it. It could be that. Oh, it's all over the place. 16.1 watts. We're showing 439 megs here. Now this could be the unit. We haven't tested this on UHF yet. 421, 219, all over the place. That's very interesting actually. I'm just going to choose a different UHF frequency, just to see whether or not it thinks it's getting a harmonic, or let's go 476, 42, oops, 25. Bearing in mind, guys, just keep in mind we are on dummy load, so so please don't think we're transmitting into. There we go. Okay, so interesting. On UHF CB, I'm getting a little bit of rubbish, and I think it's coming through my lead, to be honest. I might just see if it's my lead. Hang on. Well, I can't blame my lead, and I can blame the transmitter on this thing. It is scattering all over the place at times. It takes a sweep, and as you can see there, oops, I'm getting a little bit of the screen. It's not the screen doing it, by the way. It's my camera causing that, the angle. I'm just trying to get that right a bit, but as you see, it comes up initially 476, and it thinks it's got it, and then it struggles. Now, because I've had another transmitter on this earlier, I know for a fact that actually I had a 2820 icon on it on 430 megs, and brilliant, which really brings into question what they're doing on UHF on these things, and just exactly whether or not they're having trouble. I mean, if I go back into 147.000 on VHF, and it says they're having trouble there, isn't it? Oh, it's interesting. This radio's, oh, there it's stable. Okay, so we've got it to be stable there. And look, you know what? This part of what I'm showing you today, this is almost a please don't buy one of these, because for isolated applications, and look, I do know some people that are using them for a specific application, which they use speaker mics with them, and they're not needing type approval for what they're doing. I still say use them at your own risk, but I'm just noticing this one here has got a bit of an issue at UHF, and one of the things I'd say, and I know the person who's watching this video that's actually got one of these, yes, I know what you're saying, it's the firmware, and I'll upgrade the firmware, and we'll see, you know, what happens with that. but I've got to be honest, reasonably happy what I'm seeing at VHF. Turn that volume down, might be better for everybody's ears. That's better. Yeah, reasonably happy. I mean, I would honestly never want to use a handheld. Even if I had a speaker mic and I had this next to my crutch somewhere, the chances of having children later in life. There's a theory in the fact that radio technicians always have girls. We used to joke about this at police radio workshops in South Australia, and because of the RF that they tend to cop from such high transmitters at times, some of the high voltage transmitters, especially the UHF ones, there was this influx of everybody was having a girl. Anyway, so basically, not a huge fan of this here. Look, I'm just going to be honest. It doesn't produce the 25 watts they say it does, which I'm almost happy about. Now, there is a way that I would recommend if you were going to run this. I know we're supposed to be talking about the monitor, but just very quickly. Right, see that one there? So then hit menu again. My suggestion for this radio is, let's just see what low power is. Oh, jeez, it's really low. Okay, yeah, about that firmware. That's a little bit too low. Let's have a look here. Oh, sorry, hit menu again. And we're going to go mid power and hit out of menu. Right, exit, sorry, was what they want. Alright, let's see what mid power does. Maybe mid power won't stop you having children. Mid power, jeez. I'm wondering whether this lead is giving us trouble, but it's all over the place. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, if this has convinced someone not to buy one of these, then it's been a good video. Because I personally think there's a few things going on here that don't look right to me. By the same token, we'll go back to high power again on this thing, and let's just have a look. Exit 147. Yeah, I'm starting to wonder whether this lead's giving. Oh, yeah, see there. I think our lead connection in here might, to be fair to the radio, I think that lead connection is giving us a little bit of trouble. It seems like it's in pretty tight. I can't get any tighter, but maybe it is having a connection issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very quickly run that one more time, and if I hit the right buttons, works better. I'm going to go back to mid power, exit, and transmit. Okay, so mid power when it's working, and I'm just going to alter. I'm going to alter this lead. I'm going to put my finger on there. Look at that. No, sorry, I think the lead is giving us a bit of trouble. Oh, maybe not. No, well, I'm moving it back and forth a fair bit there, and don't know. No, anyway, look, not a huge thumbs up as yet, but we'll load some more firmware into it. Paul, I know exactly what you're thinking, and I'm thinking the same way. That this one is one that hasn't had the firmware done yet, but I don't like them. I don't know, just me. All right, but getting back to the fact that we've used a very experimental radio, but isn't that the point? You need something dependable like this when you're experimenting. I mean, if you don't know that this is working correctly, how can you ever know if this is working correctly? And all right, I did question the lead, but I don't think the lead is the problem. I really do think there's something a bit strange going on with that. Let's try one more ad hoc, sort of just hit the button. Yeah, but if I change the firmware and I go up again into high power and I go exit, righto, let's have a look. 18.3 watts. Now, I don't know. To me, it sounds a little bit like the firmware. I've got to say, for the amount of transmitting we've done on this thing at 18.3 watts, this mega battery so far hasn't shown any signs of dropping back, I'll tell you what. Anyway, all right, look, this has been a very quick look at the Marconi 2955. Do I like it? Yes, I do. It's a really intuitive, very quick. I can have what I like about it is I can have an unknown radio, plug it in, and find out a lot about it very, very fast, which is the last thing you want to be doing on antenna. it's exactly why we have, you know, test instruments, and why we have frequency counters and lots of different things, you know, so there are more than one way to skin a cat, of course. But lovely unit, and certainly a bit of fun. So not sure what we're doing with this one yet. I've already had questions about it. I'm in love with my Motorola at the moment, so I don't know whether this one's staying or what, but leave that with me. But I just wanted to have a bit of a look at exactly, you know, why anyone would buy a later model Marconi. And yes, it's some of the auto functions and some of the nice graphical bar graphs, which I think, you know, are very, very easy to read off, and, you know, to do what you need to do. All right, 73s from VK3, Charlie Mike, please subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff, and thanks very much for all your comments. If you've been using a Marconi 2955B and had a bit more experience with them, you know, always feel free to put comments in the comment section, because we're all learning together here and having a bit of fun at the same time. All the best, 73s.